All right, guys, we are back with another one. Look who I brought with me today. None other than Scott Panchik. Scott, what's up, man? Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, Seth. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So Scott and I talked a little bit, but for those of you who are maybe new to the show or coming on because you saw Scott was going to be on, we're going to go through some old CrossFit media and cover a lot of Scott's highlights from back in the day, early regionals, early game stuff, get a little bit of background on the combination of being a pretty serious, dedicated affiliate owner and being an athlete who's training at literally the highest level for years and years, almost a decade of competing at the CrossFit Games. That balance is something that I just feel like people don't know how to navigate anymore. It seems like you have to go all in as an athlete or all in as a business owner. But Scott somehow has figured out how to do both over the years. I don't know how you did it, but you did.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate it. It's been a journey, and it has not been easy. I can tell you that.
No, even just owning a gym is not easy. So owning a gym and then prioritizing your training is a whole nother thing. So how did you get into CrossFit? What year did you start?
Yeah, so back in 2008, my dad introduced me to CrossFit. He was following the main site, and I was at college playing football, and he call me almost every night and tell me, hey, I'm doing this like CrossFit.com. They post this workout out, goes out every morning. There's a new workout. And he's like, yesterday was 150 wall balls. And I'm like, what the heck's a wall ball? He's like, well, you throw this medicine ball, you squat and throw it against the wall 150 times. I was like, what? I was like, this sounds crazy. And he'd call me every night telling me stories about it. And he was doing it at a local YMCA. There wasn't a CrossFit gym really near us that he was able to get to and get to work in time. So him and a buddy were doing it at a YMCA. And I told him, I was like, when I get home on our first kind of holiday break, I will come up and do one with you. And he took me up. We did Fight Gone Bad in the YMCA. I was on a Concept 2 rower that was wooden, had no screen. No screen. And, you know, part of the workout obviously is rowing. And I'm like, well, what do I do? He's like, just pull on it and put your legs and go as hard as you can. I was like, well, I don't even are you counting my strokes? What am I getting credit for? How do I know when I'm done? He's like, just go for a minute as hard as you can. And then we'd like run into the, in where the basketball hoops were. And I'd be throwing a medicine ball off the basketball, like backboard. I'm jumping on like the old school step aerobic boxes.
Oh yeah.
Like on his hands and knees, like holding them so that they
don't shoot out on you
out from underneath me. And we had metal plates on a bar doing sumo deadlift high pull. So you can imagine I'm not slamming it off the ground. He's like, just stop before it hits the ground. It was just pure madness. And I just remember finishing and like I'm laying on the ground and I'm like, I don't even know what just happened, but I kind of liked it.
Dude, that is hilarious because Fight Gone Bad's also my first CrossFit workout ever. Okay. And it was up at a police academy with same shitty equipment, and they didn't have any rowers, so it was burpees instead of the rowing calories at the end. I had no idea what I was doing. Oh yeah, it was worse. Puked my guts out after, and I'm laying around like, that was pretty sick. I'd do that again. It's same feeling. That's so funny. And
it's funny. You do your first workout and it's like, you either love it and you're hooked, or you're like, I'm never doing that again. That was the worst experience of my life.
Or maybe you feel like that, but then as time goes by, that feeling fizzles a bit and you're like, you know what? I could probably do that faster next time. I'm going to try that again.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to not for everyone, but for anyone. Right.
Exactly. That's so funny. So from that moment, how did you decide you were going to continue training with it after you were in a daze and you're like, I'm going to try the next one now? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so I started going on the main site when I was in football season. So I would do the main site workout along with football practice. And I just...
What year? What year is this?
This is like 2008, 2009. Okay. I kind of started getting into it. And I'd go in and I'd try to sucker one of my teammates into doing the workout with me instead of doing our in-season program. And I remember I had a kid on our football team. He had it was like a 600-pound squat. He was pound for pound, strongest guy on our team. And just just a little meatball. And I'm like, all right, you'll do great at this. It's, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups. He didn't finish. The clock's still running on you, Clarence.
How long until he gave up? How long did he give up?
I think he made it through like the round of 15, like halfway through, and was like on the pull-ups doing singles and was just like, I'm out. Like, this is not for me. And it felt like there was like a warning label on my back when I was in the gym, because I'd be like, hey, who wants to do a workout with you? And they're like, no.
Don't go talk to that guy. Don't talk to him. I'm never doing that again. See you guys tomorrow, Corey Waller. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how it goes every day.
Yeah.
And so you spend about, if you're starting in 2008, 2009, pretty much 4 years before you get to your first CrossFit Games. Are you doing like local competitions from that point between your first time competing like on a bigger stage?
No, actually, it's funny. I've never really told this story out of all the years I've been doing this. This is a great question.
All right.
So I did not compete at all until 2012. Open was my first like recorded CrossFit official workout. Never went to a competition. I would follow the main site. I did like hero workouts because I just want to find like the hardest workouts I could. I'll be honest, I would like hop from like CrossFit gym to CrossFit gym on their sites when I figured out that people were posting their workouts online, and I would just find the hardest workouts I could. I'd go in, spend, 60 minutes in the gym, and some days it was actually less than that. And I loved the fact that I was like in and out and back into like whatever I needed to do within an hour. And like I had some knee surgeries playing football, and that was what really kind of left the competitiveness inside of me. I didn't get to finish my football career the way that I would have liked. So I ended up getting surgery on my knee my senior year. And it was the second time I actually had 3 knee reconstructive surgeries before like officially starting CrossFit.
Holy.
So anyone that tells me that CrossFit's terrible for your knees, I'm going to tell you that I had 3 surgeries, went 10 years, and then I was like a furnace and had my knee started bothering me again. So
yeah,
it can be done.
Your last year was at semifinals just recently when was the issue on the rope. I think you landed on the rope funky. Was that an ankle or was that a knee thing for you?
That was a knee thing. So yeah. My 2021 year was probably the fittest I had ever been in my life. Like I think that I still to this day think that was the fittest I was in my entire life. That year I ended up having like a medial meniscus tear as I was at the games, and that had happened just from accumulated volume and just I was really pushing what I should be doing, and I wasn't resting as much as I needed to. And I didn't know, like, you don't know until you're kind of tiptoeing that line and you're trying not to cross over it. And I hung out on the other side of it a little too long, and, I'm paid for it. But the following year, I had kind of retired from going to the CrossFit Games, and my goal, I never really got to tell this story because everything that had happened, but my goal was to do kind of semifinals that year as my games, and I wasn't going to go to the games even if I qualified, and then quarterfinals, and then just do a little less every year because I wanted to have something to hold me accountable to come back and be healthy and train, and I knew it was like a commitment that I could make with where I was in my stage of life, that I could do a weekend of events and not be completely trashed like I would be at the CrossFit Game. So
were you planning on announcing a retirement at that semifinal had you qualified?
I would have just said I had retired in 2021 at the games and said I was like all done coming to the games and competing as an individual. And I think if everything would have went well and I qualified, I would have, whoever had that next spot, I would have gave it to them and, wish them luck. And, the next year maybe did quarterfinals or masters would have been kind of the plan. I wanted to do a year of masters just to see what it was like and just to support the sport. But unfortunately, it just wasn't the experience I was hoping for. And it's tough. It's like you go from 10 years being on the big stage and you come over into the masters category, and I kind of felt like they really took the Masters took a back seat, I think, to the Masters, adapted, teens. I just think they didn't do a great job doing any coverage, and I would have liked to have seen them beef up the workouts a little bit more. It just seemed like it was kind of like a rush to get us done to get to the main event. So it's nice to see them having their own events, and I'm hoping that that plays out well for the Masters so that they can get the love and support and the media coverage, things that they want.
I think I agree. We're going down a different rabbit hole here, but that's definitely the best case scenario, I think, is hopefully growing their own opportunities as opposed to having to piggyback them, which is never going to get the attention they need because people can only put their attention so many places at one time. So the individuals are always going to get it. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Okay, so we're going to rewind all the way back to 2012, your first CrossFit Games.
Yep.
Your first two events, do you remember what they are?
2012 was the 7 minutes of burpees.
No, for the games. Like
for the games. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about my first open.
No, forget that. You crushed the open. You already were good to go. What was your first event at the games 2012?
2012 games was the Pendleton 1 and 2, right?
Oh yeah, baby. And you did freaking well. I think you were like, I have your scores pulled up somewhere. I think you're like 14th in part 1 and 4th up the mountain or something like that. Crazy. Yeah. So to me, this is one of the most brutal events ever. I'm going to play it without some volume in the background. Just let it play while you kind of talk through it a little bit. What do you remember about this event? Like what sticks out at you?
Yeah. So this event, when we went out and they were talking about the things that we were going to be doing and just how we were going to be starting, it was like a mass start. And they're like, well, there's a ton of rocks. And they're like, you're going to run down the beach and that will separate you, is what they said.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, is it going to separate us if we get in the water? Because I don't think it is. So it was like an all-out, like 100-meter sprint down the side of the beach. And then you got in the water. And they were like, okay, when you get in the water, the best way to get in the water is like to kind of step in backwards and get your fins on. And you're like kind of stepping in. There's rocks everywhere. They're like, be careful. Like if you step on a rock, you're going to probably break your ankle. Like it was kind of like, be mindful getting in. And then you get in and you're kind of like shimmying across the rocks.
You guys had flippers, right?
Yeah, we had fins for the first swim at the games. And it was interesting. Just like everyone felt like they were kind of stacked on top of one another. And I just remember like people kind of swimming up on top of like you, or you swimming on top of other people. And it was just kind of a free for all in the water as you kind of tried to navigate the course.
Was your strategy to try to get out ahead of the pack early, or did you just fall into the pack to see what happens? Because like your first games ever, like I don't know what your confidence level is going against all these people from all around the world. If you're just like, let's see what happens, or if you're like, you've already developed that killer mindset and you're going to go right into it and like tear it up on event 1.
Yeah, I knew I just didn't want to swim in a big pack of people. So my goal was to swim hard enough to get into like, either the outside or staying towards the inside. If I got stuck there, I didn't want to be swimming with people on my left and right, and the best place for me would have been, I like to breathe on my left side. So finding one person that I could kind of like keep to my left, that's hopefully a good swimmer is swimming straight. And then I'm able to use them as kind of like my land. Cause I think the way we swam, I was actually looking out into the water versus in towards the land, which like made it a little difficult. So I know there were times I was like looking up and looking over and you're taking in some water, but I did not have a lot of swimming experience at that point. And thank goodness they had given us fins.
Yeah, for real. And that's a pro tip. I don't know who's listening right now. We got a decent little group listening, but watching somebody else like kind of to your left or to your right, depending on where you breathe from. And if you know they're a good swimmer and they're going to be able to sight, you steal their ability to sight and you just follow them and you don't have to kind of break your cadence and stride. That's a pretty good tip for people who are trying to get into, open water swim events, stuff like that.
The only problem is if that person can't swim and they're swimming out in the middle.
That's right. You got to know that that's the person you want to follow. Absolutely. All right. We're going to fast forward a little bit. The bikes get kind of crazy.
Oh, the bikes were, this is great. So the bikes that year were 1-speed bikes. So there was no gears on them at all. So you got sized on your bike by small medium, and large, depending on your height.
And that was the frame size?
The frame of the bike, yes.
Okay.
So your seat could go up and down, and it might have only been 2, but I want to say this, there was small, medium, large. And I think most of like the men were medium and large and the women were small, medium.
Yeah.
But the bigger bikes obviously like turned over a little bit more. So you could pedal really hard, and someone on a larger bike was like, you know, pedaling at even a slower speed. And it felt like they were like going faster than
right.
you. And I remember Ben Smith's bike getting taken. Someone grabbed the wrong bike, and he ended up like standing at the bikes for a long period of time because somebody grabbed the wrong bike.
Oh, I think they actually highlight that. If you go, I think you can actually see that. I don't remember if it was the live coverage or what it was, but I remember that happened. Someone's asking, do you have to pedal backwards to work the brakes, or were there handbrakes?
There were handbrakes. And at times you can see like we had to get off and either push or carry because the sand was just so loose. So you'd get on, you'd pedal for a little, you'd hit like a pocket of sand, you'd stop, you'd fall, and some people would fall off, and you'd hop off and you'd push it. But it was just like, it was as old school as it gets. It honestly reminded me when I was a little kid, I used to do YMCA triathlons. It was like something my dad got us into as a family at a really young age. And my very first one, I was on a Ninja Turtle bike, and it was a 1-speed. And I remember losing to this like tall redheaded kid who had like, I don't know, he had all kinds of gears that he's flicking through, and he just blew through me. And I just remember pumping my legs as hard as I could and not going anywhere. And I was like having like PTSD as people that were taller than me blowing by me on their like, they're much larger bike.
Do you remember what number you were getting out of the water? Like about?
I remember, I think I was like kind of counting bikes, and I knew I was like kind of in the middle of the pack.
Okay. So you did you pass some people? Because 14th is pretty good for this bigger field. I think the field was 48 this year, if I'm not mistaken. So 14th on the swim bike is actually a pretty good result.
Yeah, I passed a few people, and I had like kind of a hunch on like who I knew would do pretty well on it, just based off of like previous games experience and, you know, some of their background in specific sports. You could hear kind of like some chatter the night before of like people that were very excited about it. So you kind of knew where those guys were, and we just didn't know where the cutoff point was going to be. So one of the things they did is like the whole course, there were like military guys like all around the whole course, and they tell you just a little bit further. Like even when we were running, they'd be like, just 1 more mile. It's like 1 more mile. And I'd start running harder or biking a little faster. And like that, you know, I don't think I had a watch on at the time. Maybe I did. I can't remember, but I don't even know if we were allowed to wear them, to be honest.
Probably not. Knowing Dave, he'd like to mess with you more, not give you that advantage.
They'd be like 1 more mile, and you'd just be like running, and you're like, man, that had to have been a mile, and it just never finished. So they were definitely playing some games with us for sure.
So after the bike, you have this big run up. What was the name of the mountain? Do you remember? I don't remember. Microwave Mountain. That's right. And yeah, no kidding. Was there another shoe change, or were you wearing your like dirty sand-filled shoes from the jumping on off the bike up the mountain?
I was wearing the shoes that I bought the night before.
Oh, good move.
And you're gonna laugh. I'll tell this story because it's funny. I was just out of college, and like I don't think I had any sponsorships at this point. So I ran this race, and before, when I went and got the shoes, I bought a really nice expensive pair of shoes. And I was like, hey, if these give me blisters for whatever reason when I'm out on the trail, like they were like, you can bring them back. So I did the race, and I took them back and got my money back.
Destroyed, probably completely.
They were destroyed.
What store had that kind of policy for you?
I have no idea.
Just a running store?
Maybe like was it Gander Mountain, or I have no idea. It was something like that. But
that's hilarious.
I appreciated the policy, and they probably changed it after they got my shoes back.
Wow, if they had known what you were going to become, they should have had you sign them and put them up on the shelf in the store. Jeez, that was a missed opportunity by them.
Right.
And then you end up, so on the way up the mountain, are you, what's your strategy? Are you like trying to hone in on the next person in front of you and make that pass, and then hone in and make that pass? Because you go from 14th to 4th, which is substantial up this mountain and for this time domain.
Yeah, I felt like this is where I had a little bit of an advantage. Just like mentally, I think I was able to like just like stay checked in. Like it's really easy to get into a point. You can see these guys walking right here. And it's like I was timing how long I would walk. So I actually did kind of like Tabata intervals almost,
Okay.
where I would count, at least on the very steep part, I would count it was either 10 steps on, 20 steps off, or 20 steps on, 10 steps off. So it was like, instead of counting seconds, I was just counting my steps. So I'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'd either walk. And it really depended on, if it was really steep, it was probably 10 on, 20 off. And if it was kind of steep, then it was the opposite. But you could definitely gain a lot of ground on people by staying checked in there. And then also like coming down, I was reckless. I was like 23 at the time, and I was flying down, and I felt like I had a lot to prove on this event. And I still wasn't sure exactly where I was. I was surprised when I came through and saw that I was in 4th, and I really exerted a lot of energy, and I like completely blew up in the next event, which was the obstacle course. My like legs were cramping, and like I probably did not hydrate enough and was properly fueled for what we actually took on.
That was my exact next question, is like, does effort like this in your first 2 events, I don't want to say like it's a mistake to go this hard, because you're always fighting for points at the CrossFit Games, but like, did this effort take such a toll that it carried forward further than you would like it to? And it sounds like it did a little bit.
For that day, yeah. I mean, I was lucky to even make it through the obstacle course. Like my like VMOs were just cramping like crazy, and I could not get them to like calm down. And with 10 seconds to go before going in, like right before we were about to do our obstacle course, like I was like kind of like punching my quads to try to like get them to loosen up. And I remember going over the logs and just like them cramping. And we were supposed to do like a broad jump that day too. Thank God we didn't, do anything else. But I remember people were just absolutely wrecked after this.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I think the games have changed. I'm going to close this one out. I think the games have changed over the years a little bit, in the sense that they do still want to put challenging events out there, but like I don't think they want it to be a battle of attrition anymore, where it's just like, who can survive till Sunday to pick up those 400 points on Sunday, which was like Rich's MO back in the day. He could have some bad events knowing on Sunday CrossFit workouts were going to be there, and he was going to scoop up a huge amount of points. And so it seems like they try to balance it a little more now, and they're not killing everybody in the first day with all these beach events and everything else. And obviously the move limits that. But even, I don't think they did the Capitol, which was a pretty grueling like play on the burden run they did a couple years ago. That wasn't even the first event. So I don't know.
Right.
But
yeah. And it's interesting because like we didn't have any food, or like we didn't really, I mean, I don't want to say we didn't have like coolers and all these like recovery devices and like coaches waiting for us at the finish line. Like we carried our own bags,
right,
uphill both ways.
Yeah, of course.
And then you're finishing, and maybe they got some PB&Js and like some bottled water, and you're on to your next event. Like it wasn't like set up where there was like a air conditioned tent that you're sitting in, and with anti-gravity chairs and your feet are up. Which I've gotten experience both, luckily.
I think they had ice baths way back in the day, though. I remember those tubs sitting all over the place.
We had the troughs, like
the troughs, yes.
Yeah, those like big troughs, and then you wanted to get in first, because like if you didn't get in that thing first, the ice was gone, and the water was like
nasty, dude.
Nasty and lukewarm.
I remember coaching athletes back in the day, walking to the warm-up area with them past those troughs, and I'm like, you got to be real desperate to get in those things at all. Like, yeah, for real. Sure. So another thing, we'll cover a bunch of stuff here, but another thing that you are probably most known for, whether people realize it or not, is you probably have the most open announcement workouts of anybody ever. Like, it seems like every year you were competing, you got invited to an open announcement with HQ.
I was a yes man. Anytime they
Okay.
asked me to do something, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, why would I not show up and, take somebody on one-on-one? And I don't know if I don't know if I was always asked first or not, but like I was always like, yes. And I'm like, are people like, it started to make me wonder after I was like doing so many of them. I'm like, are people just like not wanting to like go one-on-one against someone because it's like all eyes are on those two people? I'm like, that is like the coolest thing in the world.
You know what though? I think that could have a component to it, like as far as really putting themselves out there on a big stage like that, because you're going to get the most viewers ever on you at one point in time during the open, because everyone's participating. Everyone wants to see what the workout's going to look like. So yeah, I think it takes a whole extra set of balls to go out there. And then you're just like, no, I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Well, I always felt like that was one of my biggest strengths, was when something would get announced. I felt like, because I've like written my own programming for so long and done it for affiliates, and when I sit down on Sundays and write workouts, like I'm thinking about like the stimulus and what I want to accomplish from that workout. So like when Dave announces something, I'm like, okay, like what's Dave trying to do here? Like where, is there a little bit of a trap? Is there like something I need to be a little bit more mindful of? And there's, some workouts I've gotten it right. This one right here, I definitely got sucked in on the row a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it is what it is. You live and you learn.
So, but that's a good skill though, because over the years, you've been put in the situation so many times that like you're faster at the assessment, not only the assessment of the workout, but the self-assessment for like, what do I need to do? Not just what in general people need to do.
Yeah.
So this one you took on Josh Bridges.
This one taught me a lot here, because at this point, I'd like to say like, this was what year?
2014. 2014. Yep.
14. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I felt like this was like around the time frame where my brothers were just starting to get like up there in terms of their fitness, and we would race a lot. And I felt like at times I started to become a little bit of an immature athlete, in a sense of like coming out at one of their paces versus my, like what I knew the right pace was like for me, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I remember when they announced the workout thinking like, okay, like I got to get off the row faster than Josh, because I know he's going to hold on to big sets of toes to bar. So I was like, I'll row hard, and then I'll break up those toes to bar. And as we like get going, he starts holding on to his toes to bar to catch up. So I like threw him off of his game plan, I think, as well. And then from there, it just started to spiral for both of us. Like, you're just trying to hold on and keep contact with one another. And we both got to the rings, and they were the hardest ring muscle ups of my entire life.
Did you have a moment where you guys potentially locked eyes and both were like, what do we get ourselves into? Do you remember anything like that on any past open announcements? Did you ever have a moment with another athlete where you were like, you both at the same time were like, oh shit?
When we were on the bars, I think when we did our power cleans, we were on like the short little stubby bars as it goes forward, facing one another. And it's like, I do one. And then it was like, it felt like a partner workout. You do one, he does one, you do one, he does one. And you're like, and you could just see like the body language starting to just like stir a little bit. And as we got to the rings, you're just like standing underneath those rings. And I was like, I just remember thinking, I'm like, and I looked over and he only did like 2 or 3, and I was doing like 1 or 2 at the time. No. And I was just like, oh, we messed this up. We messed this up, or they wrote this real good.
Yeah. And so if you're like planning this out like ahead of time, back to what we're talking about when you're like strategizing it, back in 2014, would you consider yourself like experienced enough to be like, okay, blinders on, doesn't matter who I'm competing against, I'm trying to think about what's optimal for me because I can't control what they do? Or are you like, okay, gamesmanship, I'm going to try to bait him in, lure him in to do this? Like, where's your mindset on that sort of thing?
My mindset, honestly, in all open workouts, isn't about beating everyone in the world. It's about beating who's in front of me right then and there.
Okay, fair enough.
And, with Josh is a phenomenal athlete, great at gymnastics. So for me, I was like, I need to optimize my time on the machine. I'm a little bit taller than him. hopefully I can get off the machine ahead of him, get some reps in on the toes to bar. If we both get off the toes to bar at the same time, we'll go over, do wall balls. I think the total number of wall balls was 40. So I was like, you're only going to break that maybe twice. I think we ended up breaking 3 times. Singles are going to be the way to go on the power cleans. And then it's going to come down to like, I need to be into my ring muscle ups before he gets there, because I felt like his ring muscle ups were better than mine were at that time. So, in my mind, I was like, I had these like checkpoints that I needed to be in. And there was a certain point, probably right around the wall balls, where we both go over to the barbell. And I was just like, it was just like everything had gone out. And I was like, this is going to be just pure, like, we're going to have to gut this thing out.
We got a funny comment here. This workout made me finally quit ignoring my ring muscle ups. Yeah, if you can get this tired and you can't perform the ring muscle up under this level of fatigue, it's time to figure out how to improve those ring muscle ups. And guys, if you have any questions in the chat, fire them off for Scott. If they're appropriate, we'll ask them. Or inappropriate, I guess. We'll see. All right, we'll keep it moving here. So let's see. That was 2014. 2015. I just thought this was a cool one. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first year, and correct me if I'm wrong, first year you won a regional. It was the bigger combined central regional. Does that ring a bell?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And the final, let's see, I'm going to try to pull it up. Yeah. So this is actually one of the coolest workouts I think ever. Like, as far as a fan goes, watching it happen really quick. I love these little races at the end of regionals that are like a minute and a half to 2.5 minutes. Like, big fan of the pull up, 64 pull up, 8 overhead squat workout. And the reason I haven't even touched quite yet the stuff you did with First Froning in 2014. I do have a clip of that we're going to play. That is the most epic time in the history of regionals, any semifinal ever. I don't even know if someone tried to debate me on that. I could fight them till the death on there'll never be another matchup as close or as exciting as Scott versus Rich through that year.
Oh, that was fun. That was a fun year.
We did a whole show on just that one CrossFit Games Media piece, Only 3. I'm sure you've been familiar. We did a whole episode on just Only 3, the behind the scenes, and you guys and Will here. Insane. That might be peak CrossFit. And we had some great runs through the rest of the years too. The games got better after that, I think. But man, that I could go back and watch that regionals over and over and over, and I think I have.
Yeah, I think I broke my 40-yard dash time there from the handstand push-up wall to my last barbell on the front squats in that one workout. Oh,
dude. Okay, we got a good question here. What's the hardest workout you've ever done? Do you have a workout that stands out, like I'll never do that again, or I shouldn't have taken that on, or anything like that jumps out at you?
The 2K max effort row into the half marathon was way worse than the half marathon. Or the full marathon, sorry. Like, that's just not something I think I would ever want to do again.
So was it because of the recovery after the 2K into trying to settle into something you could like wrap your head around basically for the rest of the time?
Yeah, because you're selling your soul in that first 2K, and then you're just like in absolute pain for another like hour and 25 minutes.
And with that, I remember I sat there and watched that one up in the stands for the whole entire time. But
a lot of people did.
The boats were awesome. The boats on the screen were awesome. Yeah. So let me ask you this. How deflating was it to see Jason Kalipa's boat pulling away from everybody no matter how hard you tried?
Well, it was frustrating. Then you looked over at Lucas Parker standing up, pulling the handle just to his chest. And I remember someone saying like, "Hey, boss, is that okay?" And he's like, "He's not going anywhere."
That messed people up, dude. People were not expecting that one. That was what a sight to be seen. I felt a little bad actually, like for you guys in that one. I'm like, man, they're here to throw down and give us a good show, and they just strapped him in a rower for like an endless amount of time just because. Yeah. Oh, dude, that was funny.
That was up there, and the triple 3 was like when we did it outside. Like I remember just being in the heat. That was pretty brutal as well.
Yeah, at least you had some like blocks that you were going from movement to movement. In that row, dude, it's just like completely unforgivable. Yeah, Augustus. Khalifa did pretty well in that one. Yeah, he did.
He won both, I think.
Yeah, he did. I had Jason on the show. He had some pretty funny stories for that.
He started in the first row of rowers, and by the time he was done, he was sitting in the last row.
Yeah, seriously, I know that stroke of his. All right, we're going to watch this little clip here. I thought this was a cool way to finish. So you're actually trailing Hepner coming into the final. Hepner's wasn't the strongest athlete, so had a little problem with this, but you absolutely hammered this.
And in lane number 8 for Nick Forey, there is Sam Dancer.
This is endlessly entertaining.
Going classic football.
I love Sam coming out of like a 40-yard dash stance here.
So the former football player at Western Illinois is off to the races, and there is Scott Panchik in the red shirt straight ahead. And Hepner to the left of lane 5, your current leader.
Jacob Hepner actually said that this was not going to be a good event for him.
So this is the first year they made the super regional. So it's super dense, packed with good athletes. I think there was 7 regionals this year.
Sitting in third place with 411 points and no rep there for Hepner. Right next to him in the red t-shirt, of course, Scott Panchik. And there.
Do you remember this workout? Like, do you remember like going through it through your head?
Athletes are starting to swing back and forth. You can see them.
Yeah, that first rep, I remember practicing it at the gym because we got the workouts, I think, like a week before. It wasn't like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was able to run through this one a little bit, but I don't think anyone had short bars at the time. And I don't think anybody recognized how hard that was going to be.
Yeah, it's completely different. You don't get any of that whip, that good whip that you rely on out of the bottom.
Yeah.
It's still hard to get them.
And you could see the athletes were swinging around on the ring muscle-ups because you're sprinting up into that first rep versus just like being under the rings to start. Yeah, this was exciting. This was fun.
Nick, your anchor is such a beast.
Yeah. He was licking his chops for this one all weekend long.
For sure. I think that might have been the first year he qualified, if I'm not mistaken. I don't actually remember who. I think it took 5 or so. I don't remember who qualified out of this region.
Yeah.
You, Hepner. I have to look, but
I think he had edged Nick Forey out. Nick had always
Alex Anderson for sure qualified.
Anderson. Yeah, so it would have been like me, Alex Anderson, Will.
I don't think Will qualified that year. I think that was the year Will missed.
Oh, really?
I think so. I can pull it up. I'm curious. Now I'm going to look. 2015. Yeah, I think and the leaderboard was like completely shaken up in this event.
I feel like it was me. If I had to guess, it was me, Jacob, Alex,
Nick and Graham.
Okay.
Yep. Crazy year. All right, we're going to go back 1 year just because you're on the show and it's obligatory that we watch a Scott versus Rich clip at least, even though I've probably played it like 10 times. And then I have questions on follow-up about you and Rich. So, all right, let's pull it up here. Yeah, this is the one.
I feel like this needs to be my new Thursday thing. I kind of enjoy. I feel like I'm like taking a trip down memory lane here.
Let's go. Let's do it.
This is good. This is the one.
Yeah, this is the one. I mean, there's a couple this year, but this is the one. Because he's got a big lead on you right here. Like, it should be over if Rich is like got the awareness going.
Yeah, I think I just caught him off guard. I don't think he was expecting me to sprint the way I did.
First burpee down. Scott Panchik, 2 reps behind. 8 minutes and 45
I mean, everyone who was around at this time, whether they were at this regional or not, has seen these clips and just like, it's the most unforgettable regional year ever.
Yep.
And one more burpee to go.
People in the chat are inviting you on the show anytime you want, by the way. So there you go. Open invite.
Rich Froning just has 50 seconds. 9 reps.
This workout was tough. This is one I always thought would come back.
I feel like the handstand push-ups are not the challenge that they were back then. You know what I mean? Like, they'd almost have to put a little deficit in if they wanted to make that still the sticking point. It's just not the same challenge. Oh, look at you sprinting. Full sprint.
Trying to make up for what he lost last night in Nasty Girls. And now the tide.
And even good reps on the front squat. Most people would shorten their hip, but not you. Boom. Dude.
Do you know, like, when you cross a finish line and you know you won? And I think they ended up calling this a tie because we did like 100th of a second. But I knew I knew, like, I could feel it and see it. Like, my feet hit first.
Let's see. Let's see.
You see his face. He's like, oh, like he knew too.
He's tired too. Look at that. His feet are wow, what a lucky stop by me. His feet are not, dude, not down. Your feet are flat.
Yeah.
Dude, he should have got that second place. He should have got that second place.
And then he threw the bar over his head that one time, and now there's the Rich Froning bar has to drop in front of you roll.
100%. I mean, that was smooth back then. That was smart. That was
it's
smooth.
Funny because in my mind, I told him this, and I was like, in my mind, I was thinking I could throw this over my head and it would be faster. But will they are they like uncommon movement? Like, are they going to call me back for it? And you didn't risk it, and I should have.
Well, I mean, right now, no matter what happened 10 years ago, we have proof cemented. It's going on YouTube forever. Your feet are down first. There's no more argument. We have it. So question for you with Rich. So do you feel like, even though Rich, I mean, he had your number a little bit each year, but do you feel like his level of competitiveness brought yours up to the point that it actually helped you when it came time to compete at the games or even other regionals or whatever? Like, I guess I'm asking, do you think you'd be the developed athlete you were when you were without Rich kind of giving you that push, always kind of, I don't want to say dangling the carrot, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, honestly, I think the Central East and then the Central was always so stacked that I always felt like I needed to be as fit as I possibly could be, like all year long. I didn't feel like there was an opportunity for me to take time off. I knew what it was going to entail to get back year after year. And, Rich being there every step of the way was just reassurance that when you went against Rich, and if you were in a situation like this one where you're right next to him, you knew that you were going to be in good shape when you got to the games because he was the guy that was winning. So if you're right next to him and you're going into the games, like, you got a shot to take it. And, with Rich, you couldn't make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, there was very, very little opportunity for you to not extend your hips on a rep or, do anything wrong if you wanted to beat him.
Yep. That's a big thing I think people don't talk about too when it comes to just competing in general is like, at the level that you're at with Rich, you guys are reasonably equal in your fitness, and you have your little strengths, he has his, but overall you guys are so well balanced. It comes down to who can execute like this on game day, whether it's regionals, the games, whatever level. Whoever's like more dialed in, has their plan of attack better, and whoever just executes with their level of fitness better gets the W. It's not necessarily who's truly fitter at this level. So I feel like that's just not really talked about that much in terms of like, elite athletes. It's execution. And yeah, like you said, you can't afford to make a mistake against Rich.
Yeah. And I always felt like Rich always seemed to have like kind of a general idea on like what was next. You know what I mean? It was almost like I felt like he figured out training before everyone else did. You know what I mean? And I felt like over the years, you could see that his volume was always so incredibly high. And then you start to see like other athletes starting to put in more. And like, then what's the next step? Like it's a legless rope climb. It's a parallel handstand push-up. And it just always felt like he was always just like that one little step ahead, doing something that was just a little different. And he surrounded himself with, a great team. He had some great coaches along the way. I know Chris Hinshaw worked with him and Jason Kalipa a bit, and you could see like throughout their career some of the endurance things coming along, and that's the name of the game, is surround yourself with one, incredible athletes, and two, incredible coaches, and continue to be a learner. I think that's where a lot of people miss out, is they feel like they have everything they need to know, and there's always something more you can gain from the people other people in the sport.
And that goes for athletes and coaches, by the way, as you obviously know. Yeah. A lot of coaches think they have all the answers and they stop pursuing their craft, and then they run out of answers. But anyway, That was that's one of my favorite moments. I'll never forget this one. And Nasty Girls too, like the finish at Nasty Girls.
Oh,
just
that was a
just
good one
like
too.
insane. All right, we're gonna pick a couple more. I don't want to keep you all day. I got a couple more things just to bring up real quick, and then I want to. Okay, cool. So by 2017, you had been selected for the Invitational. So not a lot of athletes got to do that because they didn't do that much. But we have a little clip of you taking on the handstand walk. And what I like about this one is, I may be wrong about this, but from my recollection, this is the first time they went outside the box with the handstand walk, really challenged it and put the world on notice. I don't remember if the handstand ramp was a year before this or after this at regionals.
This would have been 2017. I think it was the year after this.
So this kind of put the world on notice that, like, hey, walking straight on your hands for 50 feet is not going to cut it anymore. Like, this is what you're going to have to be able to do. Did they give you these events ahead of time to practice, or was this was announced on the spot, right?
This was announced on the floor. Spot. They took us in and like showed us what it was going to look like, and then we went and did it. I believe either the next day or later in the same day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember the announcements, and let's see who else. You'll have to remind me who's on the team. The only thing I remember is Adam Knifer was you guys' coach.
Adam was our coach, and it was me, Noah, Pierce, and oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the other girl's name.
We'll find out. See if we can see. Jeez, I mean, I should have known too. There's Carrie. Was it Alessandra Picelli or was it someone else? I have to look. I'll look it up while we watch that.
It's going to be Rob Forte for the Pacific team, Scott Panchik for the Americans.
The year before this, though, we had the handstand walk where if you came down, your handstand walk was done.
Right.
That was kind of the first.
Put the nail in the coffin of this event.
And he's no stranger as well to walking on his hands. Doing well over the previous years in 2014 and 2015 at the regionals. Finishing
it's Tanel Reed.
Can he back it up now and give him a really big lead?
Third of four heats here in event 2, and the United States has the event lead. They have a 21-second cushion on the Europe team. So Panchik coming
was
down
that planned?
Yeah.
Just for a second as they reach the 90-degree obstacle.
The goal was to be fast through the obstacles and come down after each one, and then instead of getting tired in between each one.
I like the turns. The slalom is cool.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. That was something we did one other year at the games. But it was
in Madison.
Like the barbells was just like gave it a really kind of a fun look.
It is. It's really cool.
Panchik is onto the plate pyramid, as is Fikowski, both kicking down. Panchik back up first, working his way over the plate pyramid, and it's 3 for 3 for the United States.
Had you done any practice of that style of handstand walking before that, or were you just straight down the line like everybody else?
Yeah, I think I want to say I'd practiced handstand walking, like, you know, when you would go forward, like, and then backwards. So I'd like at least started working a little bit of like directional, but never anything that was side to side, mainly because I was like, would they have enough room on the floor to do anything that was like left and right? Like, I didn't think they could set something up like that. And I was wrong, but
yeah, well, they'll find a way. They'll definitely find a way. Okay, cool. In 2021, that was your last year compete. Oh, wait, before I get there, I have to bring this up. So 2020, you were supposed to compete with Rich on Team Mayhem, right?
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. How did that come to be? How did you decide, A, you were going to go team, and B, who brought it up to who? Did you bring it up to Rich, or did Rich ask you?
I had sent him a message at one point, and they had announced something along the lines of like, you could create your super team. And I remember just sending him something like Mayhem mentality or something like that. like just joking. And he said something about, I think Dre was his teammate at that point. He's like, I think Dre's going to go back to individual. And he's like, let's talk or come out for, a weekend, and we'll see how things go with the team. So like I ended up going out, and I guess it was my tryout.
Yeah.
And just spent some time with the team, saw how like we communicated, and after that it was like, okay, let's do it. And
that would not have been fair. It would not have been fair. I'm just saying.
That would have been a lot of fun. I at that point was like a little burnout writing programming for myself. I felt like I took an 11th and then came back and took a 4th. And I just felt like, I was like, man, I'm just so like, I just needed a break from writing workouts for myself. And I felt like I had hit a little bit of a ceiling in my training. And I thought that was kind of going to be something that maybe would reignite the flame of wanting to continue, working and take a little bit of stress away from like writing workouts. And just like, I'd never at that point handed like my training program over to anyone. So to like, just say, hey, like, send me what you want me to do and I'll do it. And I did that for a full year. And I was like, oh, wow, like I've gotten fitter. And I remember like COVID hitting and they did the like games. It was like the pre-games before the games. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like this is like the fittest I've ever been. Like, I'm going to do these. Like, I'm going to do these workouts and see if I would have qualified. And I think I would have taken like the last spot. Now, granted, like I'm doing them on my own with my own watch and there's, it's a whole different story, but I was like really impressed to see that I still had that. And I had seen some changes in a few things that I'd been working on.
Like what?
My overall like capacity in workouts. Like I felt like I had a little bit of like a set, like a third gear, whatever you want to call it, or like my ability to like what you see Rich did so well over the years in that like final day where he just didn't look tired and would take off. I felt like I had built that like just through, hour and a half swims on my active rest days. And he kind of just showed me how I could squeeze just a little bit more out of my training. And it was just a little different. And I think doing something different at that point for me was really healthy, mentally and physically. I think it's just, when you're not writing your own workouts, I think that, you can get a little biased. No matter how hard you try, you're going to get a little biased in your rep schemes and your ideas. So having him do that, I think really helped. And then they took away super teams the next year. And that's what made me want to come back and actually try one more year as an individual. And I was like, all right, like I'm all in. And I was like still doing some of his stuff. And then I started mixing in a little bit of my stuff. And I was like, I think I took my best finish in the open. We had a pretty stacked semifinal that year. I had my best finish in quarterfinals. And like going into the games, I was like, all right, like this is going to be my year. Like I can feel it. It's all coming along. And, for whatever reason, the pieces just didn't quite come together. But there were a lot of like valuable life lessons from some of the adversity that I have faced in the sport that I think has made me a better just person in general.
And that's the stuff that'll carry on forever. And you probably pass that stuff to your brothers. You're going to pass that stuff to your kids. You pass that stuff to all the athletes you coach. So those are sometimes the more valuable experiences anyway, at least in my opinion. Having never competed at a high level, but worked with high level athletes for coming up on 15 years, like I can't take some of the experiences you have and apply them because I don't have that same thing. I'm always from like the outside looking in, trying to find the details that those who are inside can't see. And that's what that's how I have to look at different. So you have a whole different like perspective you get to put on athletes. And you've had some good athletes come out of your gym. You've had Issa Gaffi, who's, at least one time, maybe 2-time individual games.
Yep.
And do you still coach Rudy Berger? I know you kind of like,
I'm kind of got him going. His wife coaches him. I'd like to say like I'm a mentor. He follows, I give him access to like all the things that I write for myself, and his wife takes them and tweaks them for him. So I'm just kind of like just a mentor and someone to pass on just ideas and work.
You're part of the team. Team. It takes a team. Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it.
Those have been the things that when I look back on the 10 years, like those are the best memories. The best memories come from inside the affiliate and working with younger athletes and mentoring others, even just coaching our community. It's just like when I'm having a bad day and things aren't going well in my training, just being around other people is uplifting for me, to see my brothers hitting a new PR or Fee, doing her first. I remember when she did her first competition and won one. Like there's just something special about being part of that journey that that brings you true joy. And that's what I learned in 2021 was like really like the difference between joy and happiness. And like there's happy moments, like me, you know, in that workout against Rich, like I was tickled, like happy, like feeling good, but it goes away very quick. And like at the games, things weren't going well. And that was like, but there was like still moments that I was like very joyful, and like joyful, like things could be going bad and you can still be joyful for your circumstances and the things that are happening. You know, even if they're not ideal. And
I like the way you put that, because like, you know, having joy is different than being content with things, right? You don't have to be content. You can always make them better, but you can feel good about where you're at and what the journey is going to be to continue to work. So that's like a good way to put it.
Sure.
So you said during your training, are you still training for anything other than life? Other than life,
I want
to. You compete again? How about this? I'll cut right to it. Are you going to compete again, Scott, or not?
I don't know. We'll see. I told my wife maybe I'll come out for the 35, the 40, the 45, the 50 each year. Come out.
There you go.
And do my first year in that division. But when people ask me, they're like, "Well, what are you training for?" I was like, "I just want to stay violent looking."
Wow, I've never heard that before.
I want people to look at me and be like, yeah, I'm not going to mess with that guy, his family, his kids. Like,
that's a great mentality. I love that. Literally. Yeah. So that's all the good media I have to show for today. But so other things you have going on as well. You program for Desert City Classic. So I know you're involved in that competition down in the greater Phoenix area every year. It's a pretty good comp. I have members from one of my gyms that go and compete in that every year. They look forward to it. They prioritize it. They do the qualifiers, all that stuff. So how did you get hooked up with them?
Yeah, so I went out last year and through StreamFit, which is a company I'm a co-owner in, which is a gym management software. We were out just as a kind of vendor at the competition and got the opportunity to hang out, work with some affiliate owners, went out on the floor. We did a couple hero workouts with just like some of the people that were there watching. I think Brian Friend, some people from Morning Chalk Up. We just had a nice big group out there and did a workout. Got to know Adam and Ryan, who are the owners of the event. And they reached out to me afterwards and said that they were looking for someone to just get tied in with the programming side of things. So I did their online qualifier, and I'm going to be doing the main event as well. The qualifier workouts just got released. They're
nice, all
named after breakfast items. And there's some pretty fun ones. So if you're looking for some good workouts, head over to Desert City. Check out the 5 workouts I wrote. Give them a try and let me know what you think.
And then you said you were there for your StreamFit company. So that's like other people may know it, kind of similar to like a Wodify, which most that has the biggest market share right now in all of CrossFit probably. And so you have an actually competitive company breaking into that scene. What's the deal with all that?
Yeah, so over 2020, was kind of trying to find something to dig into a little bit. And, you know, being a 10-year affiliate owner, I was a little tired of the gym management software that we were using. And I just felt like it was not really set up in a way that just made sense to me and in our community, and didn't do the things that I would have liked to have seen. So I got in contact with a buddy of mine. His name's Dustin, and also our other business partner, Greg. And we sat down, came up with some ideas. And at the time, like obviously the world was shut down, and we started with virtual fitness, and we wanted to create a platform where people could grow their brand inside their affiliate on a more global scale, right? So I could run classes at CrossFit Mentality, and I have, let's just say 15 people in class and maybe another 10 or 15 people that are online, and they're able to do this workout in their garage. So we kind of started in this direction of like virtual. A lot of people were still doing it at the time. And then we pivoted over to just like gym management as a whole. So giving people the option to have, you know, somewhere to showcase their programming, do all their billing, and, you know, have opportunity of like a partner marketplace on there where people can, you know, buy and sell products, and they're drop shipped straight to them. So it's like additional revenue for gyms, like chat features, so people don't have to go outside like Facebook groups that's all built inside. And then we also have like the ability to just do all the like mass text messaging and
yeah, that's key.
Everything that you would need to run your business all in one. And it's $150 a month. Like I wanted to make it the price of a membership, make it something that's really affordable so that, gym owners can maximize their efficiency in the gym, not be bending over backwards. Like I never felt it like it was right when some of those softwares are like, well, the more people you have, the more you need to pay us. And I'm like, no, like
that's backwards.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, if I'm doing good, I got to pay you more. Like, but that guy over there is not doing good and he gets to pay you less. Like, come on,
should get a discount.
Right. You should be giving me a discount for sure. So, we wanted to just create a better option, and that's where StreamFit came from.
So is your focus for that going to be pretty much just gyms, or do you think you'll ever like let, all these online programming companies like kind of find a home in something like that as well? Because I know there's a kind of this mix of, gym management software, but there's also some of these people who are dabbling into hosting programs for people and recurring memberships on that.
Yeah. So we actually have the ability for gyms to use programming. So like my programming's on there, and then there's a whole bunch of them. Like you can basically, if I wanted to go in and say like, hey,
I think mine's on there. I think mine's on there now.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure yours is on there, but
mine is.
When you didn't say it, I was like,
That's so to be fair, that's my wife's side of the business. She handles all the admin stuff. I do the face-to-face. So she would handle it.
You wanted to use Jump Ship at your
it's on there.
At your affiliate, you could go in, and on Saturday you go in and you hit kind of enter, like a couple clicks of a button, boom, your whole week's planned out and you're done. And, you pay your kind of competitor programming or affiliate programming, whatever it is that you're looking for. And, that gym owner is able to save a lot of time and, give their community something that is just really thought out from years of experience of, what you guys have created over at Jump Ship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I mean, we hit almost an hour on the dot. This is perfect. This is when everyone starts to fade away and lose attention. So we kept them the whole time. So thank you so much for coming on. This was like, honestly, there's a short list of athletes who just really got me fired up for the sport. And I know a lot of other people, and you're definitely one of them. Even though we're like the same damn age, I kind of looked up to you in a lot of ways, and you lit a fire for me for actually my whole career of like wanting to get people to be able to compete at your level. So thank you for giving me your time today. And yeah, it was great. A lot of fun for me.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate that, man.
So yeah, hopefully we could do it again down the road, maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you have an open invite anytime, and we have mixed topics sometimes too. So maybe I'll bring you in and we'll talk programming at some point, since we both have an extensive background on that. So cool.
Yeah, anytime you want, I'm on. Thursday's my rest day, so I got to find something to do.
Dude, I'm in. We'll be in touch. Guys, thanks for watching today. Appreciate all the questions and comments. It was a lot of fun. We will see you on Tuesday. Pedro from Coffee Pods and Wads will be on. We'll have a fun